and we love you. And so what would you do? And I went into the stores. I'm like, how do you help develop business for all these people? And these stores were struggling. It's like, okay, how do we get more people in the stores? And even if they're not skiing, and I started going around to all the local charities in every town that we had a store. And I'd meet with a charity, and it could be the New Brunswick Symphony or the Boys and Girls Club of New Brunswick. And I would meet with their people, and I'd say, listen, we have a ski shop here in town. Like, oh yeah, we love your shop. Okay. I said, okay, great. I would love to host a fundraiser so that basically you give me your mailing list. We'll send out a little something to all of your supporters to say that blah, blah store is doing a little fundraiser, and 20% of everything that we sell that night is going to go to your charity. And we would drive traffic, which was amazing. And then, and I'd serve a little wine and cheese and put around a few little pumpkins in the fall or whatever I needed to do. I was able to really drive traffic to these stores. And I feel like that's going to be a wave of the future right now. Again, as stores reopen, is that you want to make things kind of experiential and kind of cool. And one of the things I did from a visual perspective, which you would love, I feel like it's totally you, is that we would in the summer, we were launching, we'd have a cool tennis line and a cool line of what you'd wear at the, out on a boat or hiking. And so I would just have these huge, beautiful photographs blown up. And they weren't of models or people. It was the visual of a beautiful old antique sailboat. Right. And it was the visual of a beautiful island off of, Halifax or New Brunswick and a beach and stones and rocks. You're like, shit, I'd love to buy those clothes because I can definitely picture myself hiking or hanging out there. It wasn't models that had the 28-inch waist and beautiful tall women and on and on. It was just beautiful photos of the environment, of inspiring you to, and I feel like that kind of energy is coming back again, right? It's
I could not agree more, because the reality is, especially with social media, we don't love being sold to all the time. And I'm not in the sales game. I'm in the branding game. And my whole objective is to make my brand cool so people will come and buy it. I'm not trying to jam it down someone's throat for them to buy it, So the whole building up the lifestyle, exactly what you just, I love that comparison of, it isn't the picture perfect model. It's just a lifestyle image. And in my world, that's what we call it. It's a lifestyle image that people see and relate to. And that relation is what, motivates them to make the purchase. And it's exactly that. It's all about the branding and just building that up. And you know what, if you don't relate to, hiking in the woods, that's fine, but somebody will. And it creates this nicheness around, and around the customers that are coming in and supporting the brand, because they're not just being sold to in the old fashioned sales way. They're looking at something that's cool and they want to buy it and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. Sorry. So you bring up a good topic. Well, and we'll probably wrap up after this, but good old social media. So as you know, social media is what made Fire Festival, the orange tile, the models, everybody posting at the same time. It made Fire, one of the most famous music festivals in history, which obviously actually never took place. And then, of course, what brings down Fire, which I joke about, is the good old cheese sandwich. And, there it went viral, and around the world it went viral. And half of our acts that were ready to perform were 10 minutes away in Nassau, a 10-minute plane ride away. And all the managers are like, oh, my word, you're not going. We're canceling. This is a farce. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is a bunch of kids that have had too much to drink, that take out their little iPhones and start photographing the cheese sandwich. No one's photographing the $2 million stage on the beach. No one's photographing a huge tent that's preparing all this amazing food. Granted, yeah, as you know, there are a lot of issues. The village got blown over. The tents were destroyed, on and on. But we had prepared the village for these 600 kids. And actually, if Blink 182 and Lil Yachty or Kanye, whoever, if someone started to perform on the stage, you and your girlfriend in your bathing suits and a bikini, and you're drinking tequila and having a burger, you would have stuck around. And you're in a beautiful island of the Bahamas, you would have had fun. Oh no, hello social media. So Sawyer, as a young person, as a Renaissance man, and as an entrepreneur, what do you see as the future of social media?
I see, exactly what you just described. Social media can make or break you. And Warren Buffett has a great quote. He says, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and only a matter of minutes to ruin a reputation. And social media amplifies that. You know, you're one bad tweet away from being destroyed. I mean, you witnessed it, you lived through it, that you were one ham sandwich photo away from, you know, complete chaos. But again, to your point, which you started with, social media is what built the hype. And for everything that went wrong with that festival, my God, the marketing and the hype that was built should be a case study in every university, because it was, I still don't know how, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since I seen the documentary and since I met you and heard your story. And it's like, marketers like me are like, how do we replicate this? But obviously we need to execute afterward. And I think that the future is social, because that's all we do. I mean, everybody's scrolling, and now that there's TikTok and there's Clubhouse and there's even more apps, there's even more reason to be online. Like, maybe you don't love Facebook, but you love TikTok, or maybe you know, don't like TikTok, but you like Instagram. Like, there's so many different options. And for a person that's like, you know, has an obsessive personality, they could sit there and scroll all day. So if you want to, you know, reach those people and market to those people, that's where the real estate is. It's on their phones. And even since I started my business, I've seen desktop sales drop and mobile sales rise like crazy, like you wouldn't believe. And it just tells me that more and more people are on their phone, and more people are consuming via social. So to me, without a doubt, social media is the future. I see print ads. Like, I went to my mailbox today and I had an old school brochure that I threw out the moment I walked away from the mail, because traditional marketing, radio ads, billboard ads. I mean, billboard, people that are driving are on their phone. You know, they're not supposed to be, but they are. They're not looking at the billboard, and the passenger is certainly not looking at the billboard, you know? So to me, I mean, we see Netflix, you know, TV commercials, I feel, are in trouble and things. I feel like social media is the future. You know, it's the natural revolution. I mean, we had newspaper, then radio, and then television, and then the internet, and now social. I just feel like we're living within like a revolution.
But maybe it's obviously going to happen. I mean, from regulations to what have you, where we can kind of control total transparency. You know, I struggle with social media because I never liked it, because I felt like in the past, I knew I had friends that had a troubled marriage and a kid that was a drug addict, and on and on and on. Yet every post was perfect, and they're at a beach in Hawaii, and they're having this one. I'm like, what a fucking lie. And it just kept, and I'm like, I hate Facebook because of that. Like, half of the people I know, I'm looking like, really? Like, why don't you just post like, hey, I'm having trouble, or, you know, life isn't easy. And I think that's half the successes of my posts that I do, my simple little posts on Instagram. But it's like, oh, hey, you know, I'm embarking on dry January, and I hope I can do this. Not sure, but I'm doing my best. Oh, just finished a 1-week cleanse. I'm wearing a bathing suit that I got in 1984. Wow, but that's what happens when you eat steamed red potatoes and lettuce for 10 days and nothing else, but maybe a little lemon every once in a while. But like the viciousness of social media. And then it's the addiction of like, I won't lie. Like I said to my partner today, I don't like social media because, of course, we do these posts, and then I'm like, is anybody liking it?
Yeah.
Now, in Canada, do you get the likes or you don't get the likes?
Depends on the account. So for a while, I have 3 accounts. They all seen likes, but then they changed. And Instagram's always changing. So that was a feature that they're testing in different regions of the world. But nonetheless, we all do that. We look for that, you know, social validation, even if it's just for a fraction of a second. We don't even realize we're doing it half the time. And it's dangerous. And to your point, your original point of like, people are creating these flawless perceptions.
Right. But
I feel like the authenticity is what speaks. And I feel like that whole fake Instagram mentality which is primarily built on Instagram, is shifting, because we want real people. We want vulnerability. We want weakness. We want to see failure. We want to see real stuff that we can relate to. We don't want to, or at least me, and I feel like we're moving in this direction as a Instagram community, is we don't want to see the fakeness. We can smell the bullshit. You know, we can smell, like you just described, you know, we can smell the bullshit. Life isn't perfect. And for anyone that's pretending it is, they're lying. And I think that, you know, as a community, we're starting to catch on to that.
Well, you bring up a good point, sir. It's like, And that's me now. Well, pre-COVID, me traveling around the world. And I was due to leave, well, a year ago this week to the UK for almost 2 months to speak to like 26 universities. And basically all the professors are like, we need content. And here's an issue we've got. And I'm like, don't go any further. I know exactly what to do when I get on stage, because guess what? I'm one of the biggest, most visible failures in pop culture today. And people are like, oh, Andy, come on, that's Billy. It's not you. You tried to save. I said, fine. But I ended up being the guy who rose to fame from the documentary. So I get 70 million homes around the world that stream me. Now they know who I am. I can't walk down the street without somebody pointing and going, I think it's that guy. And so I basically get on stage and I say to the kids, you know what? Get out there and fucking fail. Yeah. Don't take a job with a big company, a big corporation that's ruining the world. Find a startup that's trying to do something cool. Follow your heart, be passionate about it, and get out there and fail. Who cares? Like, what's the worst case scenario? You're going to move back in with your parents. Well, guess what? Everybody else is moving back in their parents. And if mine were still alive, I may have moved back in with them too, but they're not alive. And anyway, but I push that, right, Sawyer, now, which is like, hey, get out there and, don't be perfect and don't be afraid. Guess what? The investment banking world doesn't like to talk about failure. Hollywood doesn't like to talk about failure. But I get on stage, I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I didn't make one penny off of Fire. It cost me over $1 million, and I spent 2 years trying to pay back everybody in the Bahamas. I got nothing to be embarrassed about or anything else. And what do you do, Sawyer, right? What do you say?
I think the difference too, Andy, and I could not, I literally got chills because I could not relate more to what you're describing. And I spoke before COVID to the university I went to, and I spoke and I highlighted my failures. And maybe I took some of that from you when you were speaking. And that was one of the things that really drew me to you, was like, you went out there vulnerable and just shared your story and highlighted your failures. Not only did you mention them, you highlighted them, but I think the variable there within you and certain people and myself is we do have a high self-esteem that we know it's okay that if, Jerry 4 rows down judges me, we're okay. We don't care. Right. And I think that it takes a level of self-esteem to wear your failures proudly. But to your point, I mean, I love that you highlighted those failures, and I got drafted to the NHL. It was my childhood dream. I got this close to making it, and I got cut. I didn't make it. But that failure has projected me in so many ways that I'm now better off where I am right now, and probably happier than if it would have went through. But in hindsight, we know this, and it's important to have those failures because, again, that failure has led to my hunger today, right?
Yeah.
And your failure and the fact that you owned it, because you could have went and hid behind it, which a lot of people do, and they make excuses and they blame people, and instead you just wore it proudly. And it's like, who can criticize you now? You owned it. You spun it in such a positive direction. It's like, who can have anything to say right now? Like, to me, it was the ultimate power move. And
God. Well, you're the man, Sawyer. Wait, so you just said something a minute ago, which you should be printing. Wear your failures proudly. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
You should put that on a shirt or a hoodie. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Wear your failures proudly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's amazing. Because guess what? Most people are embarrassed, as you know. And I now, when anybody looks at me and criticizes, I feel bad for them. And I'm like, you know what? And I've had a lot of high-powered publicists in Hollywood that'll say, oh, Andy King? No. He's a little toxic. I'm like, toxic? Yeah, because I represent a failure. No one's talking about the 30 years of successful events that I hosted. They're just talking about one event that I tried to fly in and save. And no, I'm sorry, I guess. Yeah, I'm not Jesus and I'm not Mother Teresa, and I didn't pull it off. And you know what? I'm proud of what I tried to do. And it's interesting, Sawyer, now, because here I am, like, we had this ABC interview that came out last week with Whoopi Goldberg. It was a 1-hour special called The Con. And my entire PR team is like calling, going, Andy, all right, we need to schedule an emergency press conference. Like, if this goes bad, And then one PR group was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to apologize. You're just going to say,